Hi, everyone. We'll be getting started in a few minutes. Just wait for everyone to log on, and we'll be getting started at 3:30. All right, we're going to go ahead and get started and kick things off. Hi, everyone. My name is Natalie Palastro. I'm the Director of Product Marketing here at Pass. I specialize in the development and maintenance of our user interfaces for all of our software offerings. Here at Pass, we are the leader in tech spend analytics. So we work every day to navigate through our customers' technology contracts to provide them with hard dollar savings. So today in this webinar, we're going to be discussing why your organization may not be receiving the most optimal technology contracts. Just wanted to go through a brief agenda before we begin. First, I'll briefly go over the history of technology procurement and introduce today's speakers. Then Eric and Russ will get into the top 10 reasons. They'll follow that up with our process here at Pass. And finally, we'll go through a question and answer segment. Now, just to begin, IT is the fastest growing indirect spend category on the balance sheet. This can be directly correlated to the fact that the top major suppliers in technology have valuations of over $1 trillion. This can be attributed to their consistently high margins. But either way, technology continues to be essential and the demand continues to rise, making it one of the hardest areas to procure. Now, I'm sure one time or another you've heard from one of your sales reps at these companies, you're getting the best deal. But how do you really know you're getting the best deal? Sure, we build up these relationships with sales rep, and it's natural for us to believe people we have these relationships with, but how do you know you're getting the best contract and pricing? Are you comparing this against the market value? If you're comparing it, what data are you using? Are you using survey data with people in your network? And the only true way to know this is if you're getting into the supplier's mind, if you're truly knowing what they're thinking. But how are you expected to do that? Well, PASS is set out to answering these difficult questions. How we approach this is directly reflected in our process. Now, we complete these benchmark analysis, and we've completed over 3,500 in the past 12 months that have led to immediate outcomes for our clients. And what this means exactly is comparing their technology contracts and comparing them to the best market price. Now, that is the reason for this webinar today, because we've been able to directly have these outcomes for our clients. We've been able to create this list of top 10 reasons. So after hearing the obstacles our clients go through on a daily basis when trying to renegotiate these contracts, we've heard a common theme. And this common theme isn't just specific to an industry. It stems from hundreds of contracts that branch across multiple verticals all around the globe. Now, by the end of this session, you will too have the blueprint to successfully negotiating and managing your technology contracts. Now, without further ado, it is my pleasure to introduce our speakers for today. First, we have Eric, PASS's CEO and Chief Customer Officer. Eric has negotiation experience in over $100 million of technology contracts, as well as serving in various positions within supplier organizations such as Oracle, Microsoft, Salesforce, and so on. Also joining us, we have Russ Ross. He is our Chief Officer of Strategy here at PASS, and he also leads our private equity market. Russ has held multiple positions, including the CIO of a large supermarket supplier in the Northeast for about 25 years. And Russ is going to provide us with that client perspective because we've been on the side of those negotiations. Now, we're going to have these two really contrasting views of technology negotiations that are going to lead to a very informational session and hopefully leave you with the blueprint you'll need for successful negotiations. Now, without further ado, I will turn things over to Eric for the top 10.
Thanks, Natalie, for setting the table for today's session. Russ and I are excited to give you a little context on each of these items, and hopefully you'll get some insight out of it where you can take back to your organization and create some of these immediate outcomes as well too. So what we'll do is we'll start with number 10, and we'll go from 10 to 4, and then we're going to talk about the three must-haves, which is really number 1, 2, and 3, and how you can incorporate those types of items into your negotiation strategy to obtain these optimal contract outcomes that you're searching for. So, Natalie, can we get started with number 10?
All right. Right into it with suboptimal negotiations. Eric, do you want to take this one?
Sure. So I've been a sales rep for a long time, and as a sales rep, your job is to build these trustable, likable relationships and provide continuous value. And you get emotionally attached to customers, and your job is to make sure that the customer is successful from the supplier side and build relationships wide at all different levels within the organization. But when it comes down to negotiating, one of the common themes that we see that customers are doing, they're negotiating with their sales rep. And that's not optimal for you to achieve your ultimate goal in savings and getting the best terms and conditions as well too. So sales reps are taught to call high and sell high and wide within an organization. And the decision makers within these suppliers on approvals, as you position a counteroffer, needs to be conversations at the decision makers at the suppliers. So a lot of different business units within your suppliers. The sales operations teams are the ones that are approving the overall pricing. There's a legal team that is approving the terms and conditions. But you need to elevate these conversations at a high level, specifically when you're doing your strategic negotiations. So decision maker from the customer and decision maker from the supplier is the best blueprint you can think of to obtain these ultimate deals that you're looking for. Russ, anything to add on this?
No, I think you covered it very well, Eric.
All right, moving right into number 9, we have unreliable information. Russ, did you want to touch on this point?
Sure. Thanks, Natalie. As a CIO, I used a number of sources trying to get data to be able to compare deals with other deals. One of the sources I used was Gartner. One of the problems with using Gartner data is their data is survey data. They survey their customers, what contracts they have, what they paid. So they don't actually have actual contract data. Their data is survey. Also found if you use their negotiation assistants, a lot of times the feedback they give you was pretty vague. They didn't give you real specifics. And if you've been a client of Gartner, you know that it's very expensive. And they offer no guarantee of results. So they're giving you information and assistance, but no guarantee of what the results were going to be. The other issue with Gartner is they have a huge conflict of interest. All of the major suppliers are also customers of Gartner's. So if you're using Gartner to give you negotiation advice, for example, against Oracle, Oracle is a huge customer of Gartner. And Gartner actually requires you to tell the supplier, not to tell the supplier that you're using Gartner to provide you assistance. It's just a huge conflict of interest. One of the other sources I used was my network of CIOs. Call other CIOs and ask them what they've been paying for similar deals and everything. The problem with that is there's no guarantee that their deal was a good deal to begin with. And there's always enough differences between contracts and size of companies and everything that made the comparison very hard. Comparison data is very extremely important to know if you're getting a good deal. When you think about it, would you ever buy a used car without checking Kelley Blue Book to make sure you're getting a good deal? The same goes with real estate. First thing a realtor does is check the comps to make sure that to value your house. What have other people paid in your neighborhood to make sure that your value. The problem with all this data that I've talked about is not reliable. You need accurate, reliable comparison data. It's impossible to know if you're getting a good deal without it. So where can you get that data? We're going to talk more about data in a little bit.
Yeah, make one comment on that. Data changes daily. Our customers are 300,000, 3,000 technology suppliers, and it's almost impossible to keep up with all the pricing and packaging changes. So relying on survey data is outdated, and you're never going to achieve the optimal contracts with survey data. It just doesn't happen.
All really great points. I mean, so many of our clients formally rely on Gartner, and I think that's just a lot of truth behind that. Going right into number 8, we have fulfillment of management expectations. Eric, do you want to explain this one?
Yeah, this is very common, and it probably strikes a lot of nerves. So it's when management puts the pressure on procurement, finance, and many times IT to finalize the procurement of that technology. So you don't have the efficient time to even do a financial analysis rather than even doing a counteroffer. So you get pressure into just signing the deal. And then you're left with 3 months, 6 months from now saying, what did I do? I needed more time to be effective. But the business put a lot of pressure on you to procure and put the ink to paper. So this is definitely one that I think resonates with a lot. We see this quite common in the marketplace today. And this is where the operational efficiencies and the communication needs to occur effectively within the organization with customers. And this happens a lot with tail spend as well too. And there is a lot of juice in tail spend to renegotiate contracts as well too. So I'm sure this resonates with the group that we're talking to today.
Taking us right into number 7, we have supplier intimidation. Russ, did you want to explain this one here?
Sure. Thanks, Natalie. Suppliers frequently use end of month, end of quarter, end of year deadlines to convince you that if you don't act now, the deal is going to go away. For example, we recently negotiated a Microsoft Dynamics deal that the Microsoft rep said that this was their best and final offer, and it had to be signed by next Thursday or the deal was going to go away. We ended up negotiating significant additional savings, and we didn't conclude the deal until after their artificial deadline had passed. Don't be intimidated by threats of pulling the deal. The supplier is not going to walk away from a deal just because of some artificial deadline. They have too much time and energy and resources invested, and the sales rep doesn't get paid if there is no deal. You actually need to use these deadlines to your advantage. Remember, this is the supplier deadline, not yours. The supplier is the one who wants to get the deal done by their date. So use that to your advantage. Another item we'll discuss later on is that you need to be negotiating at the right level on supplier award, which is at the senior executive level. They are not going to pull the deal. Typically, only the sales rep makes those threats.
Right.
Exactly. And that kind of takes us right into number 6. Eric, do you want to go over this?
Yeah. So as a sales rep, when you're working for these large suppliers, they go through training just like procurement team and IT organizations go through training as well too to negotiate the best deals. But keep in mind, you're negotiating, let's call it one Deloitte deal a year, or one Verizon deal a year, or one SAP deal a year. Their organization, the sales rep has a team that's coaching he or she to negotiate with you. They're negotiating thousands of deals a year, right? So their job is to continue to tell you, no, we can't do it. This is the best we can do. We need to deal by the end of the month or the deal is going to change. So it's a part of their strategy where they're exhausting you. And you continue to hear no so many times and you're like, I've got all this on my plate. I've got 30 other deals I've got to get through, but I'm just not having any success with this specific supplier. So they exhaust you into doing the deal. And then you come to find out you didn't get a good deal as well too. So we're going to talk a little bit about best practices here towards the end of the call and how you handle that obstacle. And hopefully that give you some insight. But this is definitely a common theme that we see within our customers today, where they continue to hear no, and then eventually a deadline comes up where they have to have that software or hardware telco in production.
Right. Now moving right into insufficient value calibration, number 5. Russ, did you want to go over this?
Sure. Thanks, Natalie. Just because the pricing may have improved from your last deal doesn't mean that it's really the best pricing. Suppliers will often point to the previous deal and say, maybe your net effective discount was 58%, now it's 62%. So they're portraying to you that you got a better deal. Microsoft, Oracle, SAP are notorious for this. They tell you that you're getting the best discounts possible, but in reality, you're not. Unless you have actual data to know whether you're getting the best deal, you have no way of knowing. You can't rely on your own data from previous deals to evaluate pricing, because suppliers frequently change the pricing, packaging, licensing from year to year, making it difficult to do comparison. This goes along with what we talked about earlier. You need current relevant data to determine if you're getting a fair deal. Frequent change in the marketplace and competition make it difficult to determine value unless you have that current relevant data. We'll touch on data again in a little bit.
Yeah, just to add real quick on this. So every sales rep has to submit an approval, and each supplier has their own unique approval process in some type of workflow. To Russ's point, some of these large suppliers, the sales ops team will come back and say, hey, your client received a net effective 58% before, they're getting 64. They should be happy. And sometimes customers believe in that. Oh, I'm getting an additional 6 net effective points or whatever the case may be. That's not always the truth. There's a competitive landscape. Pricing changes all the time. And you might not have gotten a great deal before. Most likely you didn't. So this is where, the data piece of it comes into play. And like Russ said, we can help you, reset the baseline, so to speak, relative to what you're receiving.
Eric had just mentioned competitive landscape, and that actually brings us into number 4. Do you want to explain how this one is important for clients to understand?
Yeah, this is another obstacle, common reason why companies don't receive the best contracts, because somebody within the organization has revealed to the supplier, oh, by the way, you won the deal. You beat so-and-so. You beat your two competitors. We're going to move forward with you. So what's their motivation to sharpen their pencil, so to speak, or provide you with better SLAs or limitation of liability, indemnification, or a price hold or support caps? There is none at that point. So you really have to build a business case, and we're going to talk about how you do that internally and doing your financial analysis and the logic behind it where you can actually negotiate. This typically happens a lot with large deals like telco, ERP, systems integrators, where they award the deals, and then you have to go back. Someone in the business or maybe IT has awarded the deal, and now you have to go back and try to find additional savings. It's difficult, but it can be done, and we'll talk about that here in a minute.
Absolutely. Now, all of these reasons are highly important, but we really wanted to put an extra emphasis on these top 3 factors that we feel are necessary to getting the best deal. I'll turn things back over to Russ, and he's going to discuss how network plays a huge factor.
Sure. When I was a CEO, I always viewed my primary role as to provide strategic value to the enterprise by leveraging and exploiting the technology, improve sales, customer loyalty, lower cost, and improve operational efficiency. That was a full-time job. Negotiating deals is a big part of the job, but there was never enough time to really focus on getting the best deal and to really establishing and maintaining the supplier executive level networks that are necessary to negotiate the best deals. And since joining PASS, I now understand how important those relationships are to getting the best deals. The higher up in the supplier organization that you're negotiating with increases the leverage you have to negotiate a deal. For example, a sales rep may be negotiating 5 deals. His manager may be 25. His VP may be 100. The executive vice president might be working on 1,000 deals at the same time. The higher up you go in the organization, the less time they have to spend on any one deal. They want to get the deal done and pull it off the table. And they're the ones that have the authority to approve the pricing and terms. So use that to your advantage. Executive level relationships are crucial to ensure that you're getting the best deal done. Negotiate the highest level possible. At PASS, we have those relationships that we can exploit to your benefit to get the best deals.
And Russ was sitting in that seat as the client, so he's the perfect person just to explain how important the network really is. Now, moving into number 2, we have expertise, something we really value here at PASS. Eric, do you want to explain this one?
Yeah, we call this, we're kind of unpeeling the onion. So understanding how the supplier thinks. And we use an analogy called the children's book. So what the next page is going to say, if you ever read a children's book, you can pretty much tell what the next page is going to say. And what it means is, first of all, you have to understand the details of what products and services you're buying and how they impact and implement within your organization. As an example, is it on-prem? Well, if it's on-prem, that supplier is going to recognize the total contract value upfront. Is it cloud? If it's a 3-year cloud deal, they're recognizing 1 out of 36 months in month 1, and that's how they recognize revenue. The motivation piece of it relative to timing and how fast they need to provision your account if it's a cloud deal. Their approval process, I talked about this earlier. You have to understand what that approval process looks like. Is it a 4-step approval process? How do I get to a counteroffer that's going to get directly up to that highest level approval process immediately? Because in order for you to save 15 to 30%, and yeah, I'll say that again, 15 to 30% of your indirect technology spend, imagine what that could impact your company with relative to EBITDA. You have to effectively understand and be an expert on what the supplier is going through as well too. We're going to talk about the logic behind that, and we're going to talk about what a counteroffer looks like, for them. But it's really understanding the mindset and the expertise of that specific supplier and how you can effectively negotiate.
Now, finally, we have data. Now, Eric had mentioned before, a lot of people are comparing against survey data. And here at PASS, we have a very specific way of using relevant data. Eric, do you want to take this one too?
Yeah, unless Russ, you want to take this one, or is this?
No, I can take that. I'll take this one.
Sure.
We've already talked about the importance of data quite a few times during this presentation. The fact is, you need comparison data to know if you're getting the best deal. You not only need data, but it has to be current and relevant. Suppliers are changing their packaging, terms, pricing very frequently. If you don't have current data, then how are you going to know if you're getting the best deal? The same goes with the data has to be relevant. It has to be comparing similar sized deals, industry, and geography. Using the Kelly Blue Book analogy again, in order to know if you're getting a fair price for the deal, they want to know your location, mileage, condition. Are you trading it in or are you selling it outright? Then they look at the recent deals, not a deal from last year. So this just gives an example of how not only just knowing what the pricing is, but it has to be relevant. An ERP purchase is much more complex than a car purchase or a house. So how can you be sure you're getting the best deal without accurate, current, relevant data to compare your deal to? Keep in mind that when we look at a deal, it's not just pricing, it's terms also. We want you to get the best contract, not just the best price. The other lever that you can use is not just the pricing of one Oracle ERP deal compared to another, but you can also take and compare Oracle's ERP deal to a Workday. Using the car analogy, it's just not what others have paid for that Lexus, it's also how that Lexus compares to a similar Infiniti or Audi. So where can you get the data you need? PASS has the data to be able to compare your deal. We negotiate thousands of deals a year, so we know what is a fair price. Our platform is PASS Forensics, which is our internal source of comparison data that has over 5,000 suppliers and over 50 million data points. With this platform, we can provide benchmarks that compare price and terms to other deals with the same supplier and against their competitors.
I just add a comment here, Natalie. It's the answers to the test. So no one has 180 days to negotiate or more, whether you're in finance, if you're in operations, if you're in procurement, IT, or legal, you don't have 180 days to spend on negotiating an ERP contract or a telecommunications contract. So wouldn't it be great if you had a baseline, you can benchmark your initial proposals to get you to A to Z much, much quicker with a lot of different relevant terms and conditions that have already been washed in the marketplace today. So that's really where I think, Russ, and I love the analogies. Those really strike home. I call we give you the cliff notes, so to speak, where we take a lot away that anxiety and the time, the amount of time that we see people and our customers spending trying to figure out if they're getting a good deal, what their SLAs are, should limitation of liabilities be 2, 3, 4, 5x, whatever the case is, scratching their heads all the time and trying to get the best deals. Well, that data sits in PASS Forensics.
Exactly.
Natalie?
Eric had mentioned to me the other day, you really only get one opportunity every 10 to 15 years to renegotiate your ERP or your network. So you really just want to make sure you're getting it right. And our process is set out to make sure nothing slips through the cracks. And obviously we want to accelerate optimal outcomes, but with every decision we make, there has to be logic behind it. I'm going to kind of toss things back to Eric. He's going to talk about the logic behind how we achieve these outcomes and really deep dive into this blueprint here.
Yeah, thanks, Nat. So we offer many different services here, but we're not a procurement organization, just so everyone knows. We're an extension of the IT and procurement team that we provide our customers a guarantee. So for every dollar they spend with us, we guarantee them a return at no risk. But here's two different, we call it the running game and the passing game. So we have a lightweight benchmark that provides our clients a very quick snapshot based upon pricing that they're receiving in the marketplace today. So we call that the lightweight benchmark. And then we have a comprehensive benchmark that goes into terms and conditions of the proposals and contracts that you're receiving, where we'll benchmark those as well based upon what we see in the marketplace. But we take it a step further, and this is where we change the game relative to benchmarking. No one else is doing this, is we benchmark your supplier, but we also will benchmark one or two of your competitors, so you really get a clear understanding. And a lot of companies use this. If they're not sure what technology they're going to go to next, they'll come to PASS and say, hey, can you help us understand what do these 3 ERP providers look like, or what do these 3 antivirus software or marketing companies look like relative to a benchmark, and we're providing that data. And the benchmarks and the categories are listed below, a variety of different categories, even into credit card merch services, staffing, a lot of opportunity in consulting companies out there. And of course, software is probably the #1 category. Natalie, you want to mention the no-cost benchmark at this time, or?
Yeah, of course. Everyone in attendance today is actually eligible for one no-cost benchmark if they qualify. So what you can actually do is hold up your camera on your smartphone and scan it over that QR code in the top right corner. That'll take you directly to a form where you can fill out your necessary information. From there, our team at PASS will kind of filter through it and someone will reach out to you shortly. So I'll also share that in the chat. It's just going to be a link to the form if you're unable to get that to work as well. All right. And now we're going to move right into an example.
Yeah, we talked earlier about the supplier and their job to exhaust you in the negotiations. Well, they need to understand what you have to do on your end. And it's not as simple as going and getting a signature on a piece of paper. It's you're doing quite a bit of things to make sure you're justifying and cost justifying the investment that you're making and protecting the overall interest of this investment. So what we do at PASS, along with our customers as an extension, is we do license management to make sure that you're actually licensing the right SKU and the right product. There's hundreds of different ways to license an Oracle database, as an example. The counts, the timing, what the term of the agreement is. Of course, there's always the current footprint and then what's the expected growth over that term. The cash outlay, in some cases, you're going to want to do a ramp. So if you're buying a new ERP platform, why would you pay the same equal payments in year one as you're paying in year 5? Because you're not even going to be operationalized in year 1, most likely up until 6 months or even further. Protection of future additional license that you have, and then the support caps associated with those license. The TCO over the agreement. One that is very confusing is the tax analysis. So if your company's based in Illinois, as an example, you have offices all throughout the United States or potentially all throughout the world. Illinois is a pretty high tax state. You may want to look at what the tax looks like in Texas or tax in Florida, where you might be able to get a break on paying that. So if you live in Pennsylvania and you buy a $10 million software package over 5 years, it's going to cost you $600,000. So we build that into the analysis, and that's also a negotiation lever for you to go back to that supplier, because it's not a $10 million deal, it's a $10.6 million deal. The supplier benchmark and the competitive benchmark, we talked about that in the previous slide. And then the chargebacks. So we talk about if someone's buying antivirus software, you need to charge, and you're doing it on a business unit chargeback. You've got maybe real estate, you got the finance department, HR department, sales, marketing, etc. We do all that stuff too, along with our customers. We show you this because we want your suppliers to know all the things that you have to do, because we hear many times all the things that they have to do to get an approval. And this kind of counteracts and counterplays into how we exhaust them and back. In the meantime, all the things that you're doing, they're calling you every day saying, hey, I need my deal by the end of the week. They need to understand all the things you have to do to get that done. So how are they motivating you to get that signature by the end of the week? And that's really into the next slide, Nat. So the most underutilized technique in negotiations anymore is an effective, not a counteroffer, not getting on the phone or putting something in an email, effective counteroffer with logic behind it. So all these benchmark terms and conditions we talked about, the competitive landscape, the ramp payments, this is just an example. We have hundreds of these items that you can put in a counteroffer. But when you're ready to sign the deal and you're ready to procure, an effective counteroffer has to have a logic behind it, because what happens is that sales rep that you're working with is going to take this counteroffer, and he or she is going to put it back up into that workflow that we talked about earlier on the call to obtain their signatures. And when the people in sales ops see the logic behind it, and the people on their legal side sees the logic behind it, the opportunity for you to secure the best contract value is going to increase at that point. Back to you, Nat.
All right, that kind of wraps up the segment for this webinar. Again, that link to fill out the form for the benchmark request is still shared. And you can contact us at our website, Pass Advisors, phone number, or sales@passadvisors.com for any emails, for any questions, comments, or concerns. This is going to lead us right into the question and answer segment. I believe Justin is monitoring any questions that are coming in, so he's going to go ahead and share some of those for us.
Yeah, thank you, Natalie. Eric, Russ, great session. We had a couple of pre-submitted questions as well, so I'll be monitoring this chat, but I wanted to throw one out there. A question came in was, some of our most difficult negotiations are with the systems integrators implementing the solutions that we've purchased. Do you recommend these same processes, and can you give some feedback on that?
Russ, you want to comment and I can add some color?
Sure. The system integrators, especially when you deal with an ERP, that's usually the largest part of the deal. And we always like to use the analogy that it's like the purchase of the software is like the postage stamp on an envelope. The system integrator
Right.
usually is the largest portion of the deal. And it's very competitive. So you can play one system integrator against another. And what we like to do on these is really peel back the onion and really understand what's behind the pricing. You know, what is the average discount? What is the average rate that they're paying? What is the annual FTE cost? So you really, how many hours involved? So you really got to understand the detail behind how the system integrator put that deal together, peel back the onion, and then make a counteroffer based on that. Doing comparisons against other deals, doing comparison against other system integrators.
Yeah, just to add to that, there's the whole onshore and offshore model as well too. As Russ mentioned, we're going to get to the hourly rates. We're going to look at the statement of works. We're going to look at milestones, and we always find an opportunity to save more when it comes to the SIs. Think about the world we live in today. You can't build travel and expense into it anymore. So rates have gone down significantly, and we're happy to. Whoever asked that question, we're happy to go into further with you guys as well.
Thank you. So the next question that I have is, I have a small team with a wide responsibility across multiple categories in procurement, with over 500 contracts to execute annually. Being this thorough with data is tough. How would I manage all of this during these time constraints? Any tips?
Not to throw a sales pitch out there, but our platform Pass 360 manages not only strategic spend, but tail spend. So you're able to efficiently benchmark whether it's a new purchase or a renewal or a renegotiation at any point, in that platform as well too. And then it kind of helps you prioritize what's important to work on. So whoever asked that question, I think I heard 3 or 4 people in procurement, over 500 contracts. I bet the biggest challenge you have is prioritization and what to work on, because you have limited time at this point. So the platform allows you to accelerate and identify low-hanging fruit, so to speak, of where to work at. And then we keep that up to date relative to 90 days out renewals. What's an auto renewal? Typically auto renewals, the puck gets by the goalie. Oh, dang it, I forgot. I had an auto renewal 90 days out. I needed to inform the supplier to cancel the auto renewal. Or I didn't have an opportunity to renegotiate it, went into auto renewal. How many times does that happen that we see on tail spend specifically? So yeah, the platform, Justin, and I think the other piece of it is really identifying the low-hanging fruit to where to spend your time to create those quick wins or outcomes that you're looking to do.
Eric, just to add to that, in addition to the platform, we also, if you engage Pass, we also act as an extension of your team. We have procurement people on our staff that can assist your team, taking some of that workload off of your procurement people and really adding value.
Yeah, well said, Russ. Thanks.
Thanks, guys. Next question I have, and I think we may have touched on this a little bit, but maybe go back and clarify. Can Pass benchmark telecommunication and mobility deals?
You want me to take this one, Russ?
Yes, go ahead, Eric.
Yes, I would say that's the number 2 category, that or number 2 or number close to number 3, I guess, that we're seeing the most significant savings. Telecommunications, there's been some consolidation in the marketplace today. Companies like T-Mobile and Sprint, which are basically the new rabbit that AT&T and Verizon's chasing. So there's a tremendous amount of opportunity to renegotiate mobility. And let's separate mobility and telecommunications. So mobile versus hardline, but we do both, and very successful outcomes for our customers today. In fact, we're doing a global consolidation right now with one of our clients, and in the first month, they reduced their telecommunications, the hardline, somewhere up in the ranges of 35%. And that's hard dollar savings. So if they're paying, $100, they're going to pay $65. It's 35% of hard dollar savings. Anything to add there, Russ?
No, I think you covered it very well.
Thanks, Eric. Last question that I have here is, how can I ensure that I don't strain my supplier relationship by pressuring too hard?
Take that one, Russ, and I'll add some color.
Sure. Well, we agree, supplier relations are very important. The supplier rep you deal with, you deal with them on a daily basis, or maybe not daily basis, but very frequent, not only for your current purchases, but when you have issues and support and everything. So we value those relationships and want to maintain those. We like to make it a win-win-win situation for everyone. We want the supplier to win, we want the client to win, and we want to be a part of that. We win when the client does. So I've often heard the analogy that a judge, he thinks he wins when nobody's happy, neither the defendant or the prosecution. But in our business, we want everybody to win. So we value those relationships. We make them stronger. If you think about it from a supplier relationship, the one thing they want is to get the deal done. And the one thing we can help them on is getting the deal done faster by working through the pricing and the terms and working with the client. So we like to make it a win-win-win.
Yeah, just to add to that, I said this earlier. I mean, having the answers to the test and talking to the right people at the right level with the suppliers, it just accelerates the deals, right? So they like that because, again, they get their deals quicker, and they know that if we're involved, they know where we're going to go anyways and what we're going to coach our clients with, sitting beside them or coaching them. So we're not going to ask the supplier to do something they haven't already done for another customer. Right? The mutual respect that we have with some of these large suppliers, 80% of our logos came from suppliers. They've introduced us to their customers. For whatever reason, they want to get their deals done quicker. There's anxiety, or, hey, how do I pull a deal through quicker? All those things that we've showed up in previous slides about the financial model, the tax model, all that logic that we have behind there. Where we can go back and kind of, I don't want to use the term Russ was going down, the court world, like an arbitrator, but we really are the arbitrator, where we're going to connect the customer to make sure that they get the best deal. And then we're going to get to the supplier and say, if you can do this, our client's willing to execute this. And everybody wins in that particular scenario. And they take a lot of time and anxiety and uncertainty off the table at that point.
Thank you.
Any more questions, Justin?
Yeah, actually, we had another one come through while we were answering that last one. So question is, can you describe how the process would work if PASS is involved in the negotiation process with the procurement group?
Yeah, so we probably had 10 phone calls today. So on a day-to-day basis, our customers are assigned a customer success manager, and he or she works directly with our customers to identify, the proposals, the contracts that they have in. And then the first thing we do is we create a comprehensive benchmark, because we have to have a baseline. And that benchmark will also look at the competitive landscape. We, at that point, get on the phone with our client. We talk to them about who they're working with, what level they're working with, when do they need to have the software, hardware, or whatever the case in place today, what's the timing behind that, and would they consider any other options, like a 3-year term or a 5-year term or whatever. So we get variables there. Then we go back to them and they either have the conversation with the supplier or we do it together or we take the lead. So again, we're an extension of the team and a lot of coaching. And, again, it's like, wouldn't it be great to bounce, a lot of ideas off of, 20 plus people that have been doing this and have seen a lot of these deals back and forth. It just gives you that ability. And then you have the platform, which basically provides you templates on terms and conditions and pricing where you can go relative to that specific supplier. Russ, anything to add there?
No, I think you said it well. I think the key point is we can either coach the customer and how to negotiating with a strategy and everything, negotiate with the supplier, or we can take the lead, or we can do it together. I think those are the key points.
Yeah, Justin, I would just say in a different context, we work with some of the largest consulting companies, turnaround companies, procurement companies that just buy benchmarks. They just want data. And we can formulate those types of relationships as well too. Or you can have the model where, you're leveraging the platform and the services and the negotiating team here at PASS as well too. So there's the good thing about the company and how we interact with our customers is there's a big menu to pick from. You just got to let us know what you want. And then we right size and craft the right program for you.
Great. Thank you. That is all the questions to this point. Natalie,
well, if that's everything, just a little wrap up for the webinar today. We really unveiled the blueprint to receiving optimal contracts. And we appreciate everyone who was able to attend, and we look forward to having conversation with you. For anyone that wasn't able to attend, we have recorded this session. We will send that out once the session is over. But again, I really urge you to take advantage of this no-cost benchmark. This is a very, very elite opportunity. We don't just hand them out to anyone. And so many of our strong client relationships have started from these benchmarks. Now, with every dollar that you save, we guarantee a minimum of 5 times savings on your investment. So I think it's a no-brainer. Hopefully we'll get in contact with you, anyone who's interested, and you'll think so too. Thanks again to our speakers, Eric and Russ, and did an amazing job. And again, thanks everyone for joining, and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you, Natalie. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Natalie. Thanks for hosting.